So there we go. We've got a thumb waving from Jake there, which is quite good because he's had technical problems, but at least his body parts are still working. Welcome to a pod full of Saints, number 38 for the 2021-22 season. Myself, David Tavener, adjusting his glasses, Jake Ellacott.
Hello, Dave. Hello, everyone.
Hello, Jake. And somewhere in a different corner of St Albans, we've got Lee Wood. Good evening, Lee.
Evening, boys. My body parts gave up long time ago. So,
yeah, I know you feel. Right, just before we started, Lee quite correctly said we got 6 points here to reflect on as we look back at our last two games. Just not many of them came our way. Starting last Saturday, Concord Rangers at Clarence Park. What I will say is that game had so many chances at both ends, and I thought for 65 minutes we competed very well. But I thought Concord Rangers were deserved winners. What do you two think?
Oh,
really?
Yeah, I thought.
Yes.
I thought it was a bit closer than that. I'd say I thought the Saints deserved something, but we just didn't put chances away, did we? You know, a bit of luck with the offside, maybe, but it was offside. Joe Neal probably shouldn't have gone for it. Hit the bar. We had benders off the line. We had a few scrambles in their box first half, didn't we? But I don't know, we just couldn't finish, could we? And Concord, fair play to them. They came to Clarence Park, you know, they knew what they wanted. They wanted a point. They defended well, and they struck us on the counter in the end, and it worked. And if you're chasing the playoffs, you've got to be putting those games beyond any doubt before we can even worry about Concord scoring, I think. So,
Jake, I totally disagree with you. Jake, they did not come for a point. They had so many chances early on. They had one in the first 17 seconds.
Yeah.
They had loads of chances. They outnumbered us for chances. You wouldn't know it on the highlights thing. They, for a side, 1 win in 10, 1 point in 6 away games, I thought they had a terrific attitude at the park. They didn't come to defend. What do you make of it, Lee?
I think they grew in stature as they sort of saw us sort of coil away a little bit. First 20 minutes, I thought we were superb. We created the chances, and as Jake said, really, really wasteful. I don't agree with your Tavs, if I'm honest. I don't think they were much. They made us. I mean, I think our wastefulness was the undoing. That was the difference. I don't think they worked any harder than us, certainly in the first half. But I think they grew in stature, and that's where the chances came from. And I think we were just panicking a little bit. And I put that down to a lack of leaders on the pitch and a lack of direction, really. I mean, we huffed and puffed for quite large periods, but it's just that cutting edge in the final third. We've got the hottest striker in the division, but we can't all lump it on his shoulders. You know, we've got these excellent fringe players, but it's again, you know, where were they? And we talk about the playoffs. Okay, we talk about reaching the playoffs and the club progressing and all this sort of stuff. But the thing is, look at these games here. We've got Concord, Billericay, and sort of even cast your mind back to the Braintree game. If we're serious about playoffs, look at the teams that have been challenging for the playoffs or got into the playoffs or even promotion. Gary Hill's team don't lose any of those 3 games. John Mitchell's team don't lose any of those 3 games. Lippiat's team don't lose any of those 3 games. This is the difference that we've got now, because good St Albans City teams have passed who have actually got promotion. They beat teams like Billericay and Concord and Braintree. This is not happening here. What is it? We've got 23 points out of 20 games or something. That's our level now, boys. That is where we are. Mid-table at absolute best.
Statistics. Oh, sorry, Jake. Yeah, go on.
I was going to say, I'd add to that, you know, those teams, they didn't even lose. They didn't even draw. You know, they didn't lose against these teams. Forget winning. You think of Jimmy Gray's team in that final run in to the playoffs. Then, you know, a team that's not that distant in the memory, really. You know, some of the results at Froome and Banbury and George Sykes scoring a fluky goal at the Clarence Park. You know, surely there was a bit of luck about it, but they made sure they didn't lose and didn't concede sloppy goals, and that's where it's all going wrong at the minute. So, sorry to interrupt you, Dave.
No, not at all. I agree with you. We had chances and whatnot, but I want to give Concord some credit for the position they were in to come and create that number of chances. I thought was admirable for them. We certainly had enough chances to win it. I'll go along with that, but I thought they competed for 90 minutes. We didn't. The statistic, Lee, it's a good one you brought up there. You can split the season into 5/5. 1/5 We won all 6 games in that fifth, 18 points. The other 4 fifths, 27 points from 24 games, virtually relegation form. And that is a major chunk of a season. It's us still being in a playoff position. If you look at that, that's flattering, isn't it?
Yeah, I think us being in the top 7 is more down to the teams around us, isn't it? Not winning, not being consistent either. We've talked
Exactly
about
that. Great point.
We've talked about this season about the quality of the league, haven't we? And it's not been great apart from the top 2, top 3, maybe even top 4 potentially. But and aside from that, there's really not much in this quality of the league. And people have said the league has got stronger. Clubs might be spending a bit more money this season, but the quality of the league is not any better than it has been in previous seasons. I would argue, think back to even 2005-06, the quality of some of the sides in the division then, how competitive it was. So it's not got much stronger over time, and the Saints are really only in the top 7. People will say, we've had a great season still, and I do understand that in terms of the Forest Green and the Cup run, but
one game doesn't make a season, though,
exactly.
mate.
But if you are picking 27 points up from 24 games, if that's a statistic, that, as we said, bare facts there, there's just not what you're going to get anywhere near the playoffs with that, are you really? And, that is relegation form since November, December, and I don't think anyone could argue that.
I know we haven't finished with this game. We've still got a Billericay game to talk about. But bearing in mind all what we've said about the record and the recent games, can you see us maintaining a top 7 place?
I think
if we do it, it won't be our doing. It'll be just the fact that we've absolutely conned our way into it. Yeah. It's very telling the fact that in the post-match, Michael Johnson come out and was an absolute staunch defence of Ian Allinson. I'm not entirely sure whether he foresaw some abuse coming Ian's way following the game, but it was a bit of a weird one because that wasn't the question that was asked. There was nothing to suggest that Ian was going to get a load of abuse. He wasn't getting any from the fans, unless he wants to make it up again. But the thing is, it was just really, really weird that Johnson felt he had to come out and support Ian. I think Ian strikes a very lonely and forlorn figure in these post matches. I mean, very much like this podcast, they are riddled with cliche and contradiction. But the fact of the matter is, I don't know whether he's got the answers to the questions that are being posed to him. And as the season unfolds, I mean, there must have been a reason why Johnson come out in defence of it. Did he just preempt the fact that he was going to get a load of abuse or some questions towards him?
I don't know if you saw my notes this week, Lee, but I put in there about in the early days, Ian Allinson at Clarence Park, he had an assistant manager with him, Glenn Elzapidi and who else. Nowadays, we've got how many coaches there? And yet our performances on the pitch are getting more and more confusing, muddled. Are there too many voices going into his head when just let him get on with it, pick his team and his tactics, and he's stand and fall by that instead of, you might have a point.
I think the more voices you have, the more muddled your own gets. You know what I mean? He's got so many people in his ear now. He's probably got the owners in his ear. Dean Austin's probably in his ear. You got all the coaches around all having a say about how to run his team. And it is his team. Without wanting to sort of turn this into a bit of a witch hunt, the buck does stop with him. These are his players, they're his tactics. And he just looks out of sorts in these post matches. He doesn't relay anything. He doesn't give me any confidence that he knows how to turn this around as a fan, looking at his body language, the things he says. The contradictions are rife in it. I hope he does turn it around, but at the end of the day, to what cost? Does it now peter out so we are a mid-table team at best, or will he now galvanise the entire changing room and maybe muster some sort of charge up towards the playoffs?
I want to mention, you've mentioned MJ. I think we have to say he's been very, very good in recent weeks. Made a good penalty save against Concord, and that should have been the springboard to go on and win that game. But I say, Lee, it's funny, isn't it? It seems like, again, from that interview and from what we've heard from people that know the players, that they are still fully behind Ian. They do fully back him, and they don't want him to go. So you just wonder if there's murmurings inside. As you say, after the game at full time, I didn't think there was really any discontent from the fans at all. I thought the crowd was very supportive again throughout the game against Concord. And at full time, sure, people may have slunk away early, may not have clapped, but there was no booing, nothing verbal, was there? So as you say, is it something inside the club that Michael Johnson's talking about?
Don't get me wrong, fans are pissed off. Fans are royally pissed off because this isn't good enough. And I think there seems to be an acceptance now that no one really cares if we lose. Not for the proper fans, because this is hurting us every single bit as it's hurting the players and the management, if they do care at all. But the thing is, there's no discontent, because if we show discontent, we get called out for being, showing a lack of support. It is very hard for us just to sit there and, oh, well, we've lost. And it's a very small minority, but when we get humiliated at times in games and we lose games, and the players come around and show they tug the badge and all that shit. It's old hat, fellas. It's old hat, and I want to be cheesed off when we lose games. I accept we are going to lose games because that's football, but it's just the manner in which we're losing them now and the frequency in which we're doing so.
It's a point we've made many times this season. It all comes down to Sean Jeffers. If he has an off day, we're going to struggle. It's not his fault. That's the problem, isn't it? It's not his fault at all. I mean, crikey, a number of times he saved us this season. We could chuck in Tuesday, if you like now. Mitchell Weiss scored, what was it, his first goal in 18 games or something ridiculous. Mitch has played well, very well this season. But we need someone else getting goals. There's too much pressure on Sean. And Joe Neal, unfortunately, he's got to step up at the moment. And at the moment, he doesn't look like getting a goal. But there's plenty in his game to suggest he'll come good. But we need somebody in there now getting goals.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw against Oxford City, wasn't it? Sean scored, but then he missed a couple of real chances. And, you win that game and, things look slightly better in the table. But as I say, Sean has been amazing this season, last season as well, in front of the goal. But you can't build a team around just one man scoring goals, can you? Especially when the midfield isn't quite providing the support it needs and the defence is not able to keep clean sheets at the minute. It's a recipe for, you wouldn't say disaster, but it's not a recipe for a team that's going to drive into the playoffs and, get a lucky promotion win, is it? In the playoffs, it's not that at all.
We're talking of Concord. They've got a free day, I think. This Saturday. We go there next Tuesday. Can you see our fortunes improving?
It's the sort of game that you would expect the players to be up for now. They've got to be looking. They should be embarrassed themselves. It's so hard, and we don't want to keep criticising players because that does no one any favours. But the thing is, Ian's very critical of them in the post-match. You said the players themselves in these post-matches where they're very critical. We've got to cut out the mistakes. We're not good enough. We're making these errors. That's up to them now. It's up to them to step up to the plate. I just can't see where the next positive result is going to come from, because if we can't beat Concord at home and we can't beat Billericay, then what hope have we got? Seriously, because we've got some hard games coming up, fellas. And if we're not careful, we could be on the end of an absolute hiding.
One positive thing is we are creating chances at the moment. We did against Oxford City. We certainly did against Concord. And we did against Billericay. But Billericay deservedly won and should have won by a lot more of the chances they had. And they didn't even miss a penalty. So it's encouraging. We are at least creating chances. We've got to stick them away.
Absolutely. But, we can't just rely on Sean, can we? You talk about...
Here we go, boys. Here we go. Jake. Does this now cement the idea that we must have a proven second striker at the club? Because given how well Joe came onto the scene and his energy lifted everyone, fans and players alike, and as you say, Tavs, he was getting into the right spaces, he was creating chances, a couple of absolutely fantastic saves aside, he could have had 2 or 3 goals to his name already. But again, it's not just as easy as us going out buying a striker, established striker at this level. But we can see that. Surely we can see that. Then the players must see it, and Ian must see that. Surely.
Well, you've got the midfield as well, Lee. You chuck the midfield in there. We've banged in on all season about that, and nothing's happened in there, is it?
So then, what is the answer? Do they not want to go up? Do they not want to seriously invest in the squad?
That's what it sounds like, doesn't it? It sounds like they're happy for us to challenge, but they don't want us going
Uh,
up until we get a new ground at move away from Clarence Park, maybe.
I think on the midfield as well, I think this season, the midfielders haven't stepped up to the plate goal-wise, have they? Midfielders like Johnny Goddard, Zane Banton, etc. They probably haven't hit the back of the net as much as we've really needed them to at all. And I don't know if it's because they've had to play a bit more defensively because we haven't had as much of a defensive midfielder there, or Sean's style of play just hasn't suited them, or what. But apart from again that run at the start of the season where Zane Banton bagged a couple, Johnny Goddard got a couple. Apart from that, no one's been scoring from midfield, have they? So you haven't got the support either there to step up when Sean Jeffers. And imagine where we'd be if Sean missed more than one game this season. Imagine if he'd picked up a semi-serious injury for a couple of weeks or even a month. What would we do without him?
What if someone signed him as well, though?
Yeah, that is a danger.
He likes a new club, doesn't he? Oh, Sean. So it's not. That's not without the realms of possibility. Someone comes in from in the summer.
Yeah.
Then what?
No, absolutely. Dave, we'll talk about Billericay as well. Sadly, we have to talk about that torrid evening. I mean, the thing that got me about that, to take it away from the attack for a minute, defensively, I mean, Ian in his post-match talked about how before the game they mentioned the strength of Billericay's set pieces. But goodness me, I mean, throughout the game, we just couldn't defend them, could we? Almost every single one dropped either on the penalty spot or somewhere in the box. Their first goal was off a free kick, and all of us behind the goal were like, this is probably going to be scored here. And then lo and behold, it was so obvious. And, I understand Billericay are strong from set pieces. That's, it's understandable teams target that. But you cannot I don't know how many set pieces they had in the end, Dave. At points, it seemed like it was constantly. But you've got to be so much better. And, by the end, Saints fans were watching in disbelief at every single set piece cause a danger. It was just unbelievable.
Well, it was incredible, wasn't it, Jack? The number of headers that Billericay won from both set pieces, throw-ins, everything. They won an incredible percentage of those headers. And by the end, well, you're in amongst those supporters, our fans were cheering. Rare times we won a defensive header. It was jeering, if you like. But how? We had all 11 players back because we've become so defensive now. And even though we crowd the penalty out, we still couldn't win the headers.
No, and set pieces, and even aside from the set pieces, especially second half, the defending from our end looked so chaotic. Almost every chance Billericay went forward, it's like, oh, they're going to score here. How haven't they scored? Michael Johnson, again, some very good saves. And at the end, he came over and he looked almost distraught, I think. He'd kept his team in it for so long, and then the defence in front of him let him down like that. So overall, defensively, Tuesday night, I think it's easy to forget these lot. Sure, they've upturned in form, but they're bottom of the league. You're challenging to the playoffs. They're bottom of the league, and they just almost run rings around you at the back at times and torment you. And as you said, Dave, they should have been out of sight, really, shouldn't they?
They've got to change side. 9 changes from a side that lost 4-1 at the Park. We had 3 changes from that side. And Jody Brown's got them playing a high-energy game, and they get the ball forward quickly. And it's not big boot. It's directed to their men who win these headers up front, and they feed off them superbly, and they put a good ball behind with a bloke running around. They are very well organised at the moment. Can you say the same about us? We seem to have one plan at the moment. If we haven't got the ball, it's everybody back.
Yeah.
So if we do clear a free kick or a corner, there's nobody up there to pick it up. Back it comes again.
I was just going to say that synopsis of Jody Brown. That sounds exactly how I think we should be playing. Play to our strengths and getting balls in behind. What is the answer, Dave? Because the fact is, you look at it. Jake and I are behind the goal, and we're sort of there for the experience and the atmosphere, and sort of almost suck the ball into the net. You have a more strategic standpoint. So is it a case of we're just leaving massive gaps? Are players not good enough? Are they not fit enough? Do they not run enough? Is it just the shape? Is it the system? I mean, there must be something, one key component, which is factored into all, especially the last month or two.
I met up with a friend of mine today, John D.
You
He's
haven't
only
got
been
any
one game, an acquaintance. He's only been to one game this season. He used to play for Colton many years ago, alongside John Mitchell. And he saw the Dulwich game, and he said, we were fantastic going forward, which we were in the early part of the season. We attacked without fear, didn't we? Now we don't. We attack, the defender in front of us, we've got to go forward, sideways or backwards. We've lost that attacking intent. So you mentioned the other week, Lee, about sides. They know they get at us. It's when Braintree came. They get at us. They're going to cause us trouble. And I think the last two sides have done it. We could have won the game against Concord maybe, but they're getting at us and they're creating these chances. They know we're going to crack. And we haven't got the mindset to put them under pressure like we used to in the first half of the season.
I was just going to say, Dave, you mentioned high energy about Billericay. We used to have that, didn't we? And, you know, even the Oxford City game, second half, we had that energy. We were going forward, we were attacking well. But why have we not been able to do that really at all since November, December? What has changed in the team? And that's the funny thing, isn't it? You know, we've had fits and spurts. You know, we've had a couple of wins here, draw here. You know, we've gone undefeated for 2 games, but that high energy has not been in place, has it, since around Forest Green? You know, what has fundamentally changed in this team? I would love to know, and I think it's going to be one of the.
That's it, though, isn't it, mate? Nothing has changed. It's quite static. It's quite stagnant. Where you look at teams, Dave, you've just highlighted a very valid point there, mate. Billericay were in the mire. So they've brought in all these new players. They've changed personnel. And in turn, they've got an upturn in form. Okay, fine. They're probably still going to go down, but they've given themselves a chance now. You know, we keep being, you know, preached to that our squad is big. That's fine, but if you don't believe in half of them, that's counterproductive. You need to absolutely fill and pack your squad full of quality players. If you are genuinely serious about going up and getting promoted, you can't. No one at the club should be talking about playoffs now. It's an embarrassment. You're embarrassing yourselves. You're embarrassing the conversation and the context, because we don't deserve to be anywhere near the playoffs. We've just shown that through the stats. But you know what? Let's just go back to the absolute basics and take each game at a time. Because if we're not going to get any players in, fine. But then don't sit there and pretend that we're still in with a chance of beating the big boys, because we are nowhere near. We're nowhere near where we need to be.
I agree.
I think we're right. Sorry, Jake, go on.
I was going to say, I had another supporter come up to me at Clarence Park the other week. He'd watched the podcast and he said, again, you know, he never expected to even get the playoffs this season. He enjoyed the cup run. But, you know, and he said sort of, you know, against the likes of Oxford City, we're probably not going to beat them. But, you know, I think that's a fair enough point of view. But you cannot then go on to fail like we have against Concord, Billericay and Braintree. You know, fair enough, even if you're a mid-table side, that was our aim this season, you should not be losing to the sides in and around the bottom 4 or 5, should you?
Was it our aim this season when you see how we were after that early termination to last season, when we were certainly challenging for a title for the first dozen or so games?
Yeah.
Certainly, and then the playoffs in the few games after that. I think people probably expect us to carry on from there, and we did, didn't we, for the first, dozen games of a season. Since then, it's all gone wrong. What is wrong? The energy levels, you could certainly query that. I still think the midfield is a big problem. We are out-muscled in midfield, which then doesn't allow us to be as creative as we want to be. And the defence is getting exposed quite a bit now.
It is, yeah. There's no protection at all, is there, for the midfield, and there's not much creativity going forward at times.
Yeah, I think I was going to say, Jake, then before I started. We mentioned about the 9 changes. All the players that Billericay have brought in, well, they haven't got £250,000 from an FA Cup run. We can't bring in 2 or 3 players.
No, I mean, they even brought in Nico Muir from Hampton, I believe, for a small fee. So, you know, someone like that, he isn't amazing, but he can score goals at this level. And so, you know, some simple signings like that for a team like Billericay can make a world of difference, can't it? And it, you know, it probably could and maybe could have for the Saints. It didn't even have to be, you know, 2 amazing players. 1 or 2 decent players at this level could get you to, you know, easily top 6 finish.
Look at us, boys, eh? 3 cantankerous, miserable, downbeat supporters.
Well, you know,
yeah.
How
we only had 1 at the start of the season, Lee.
I know. You know what, Tav? Someone come up to me and said, you two used to be really sort of chipper and chirpy. You've been spending too much time with that David Tavener. I'm like, listen, mate, we try not to, but it's just, we can't help it sometimes.
How St Albans would it be that we go on to beat Ebbsfleet now Saturday and all our problems are resolved?
Well, hang on, Jake. Their last match, they lost away to Braintree.
Oh, there we go. All the good clubs do it.
It would be so St Albans. However, it would be so St Albans in so much that one result and everyone's, back on the playoff bandwagon again, papering over those massive gaping cracks that are appearing in number as well. I hope we win. Of course I do hope we win. But given current, you talk about form. We're on some form. It's not in a good one either. So the fact of the matter is we've got to turn it around some way. And why not against Concord? Why not then against Ebbsfleet? The games are there to be won, but we've got to have our best players turn up and all perform and in unison.
Ebbsfleet blow hot and cold. They're fifth in the table at the moment, and they thrashed us 5-0 down at Stonebridge Road. But I think a lot of that was down to us on the day. You talk about low energies. We had nothing that day, and we made them look a lot better than they probably are. And some of their results since then sort of.
How many games could you have said that, Tavs? You could say that about a dozen games. Yeah.
So you fancy us to put up a better showing against them this time, and we could well get something out of it. I think 5-0 flat of them. It's a lot closer between the two teams than that if we turn up.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot of this sort of disgruntlement, disappointment, whatever you want to call it, I think amongst fans comes down to the performance levels, really. Concord and Billericay, we might not have been our best. Billericay definitely performance levels just not there at all. But if the lads go out there and put in a decent shift, then you can't really have a problem if we lose to a decent enough side like Ebbsfleet. But the energy levels have not been there, have they? Apart from 20-minute spurts here and there, a decent half against Oxford, we have not performed to the levels that we know this team can. So, I'm sure people will be thinking, these lots so negative, why are they like that? But we know what the players can do. We know they can perform up. We know they can play well. And they just haven't done it recently. And if you're losing to Braintree, Concord and Billericay, then there's a lot of questions.
Wow.
There you go. Look at him. Look, he's sitting back in his chair like the bloody Godfather. Just look at him orchestrating this.
But I want them to prove me wrong on Saturday.
Yeah, a lot of people often prove you wrong, Joe. It's no problem. Shall we get onto this email, which we've seen, and now I think it's been posted on some message board, which I don't go on. It's asking questions about Ian Allinson. It's come from another club, apparently, suggesting the club want to get rid of Ian Allinson and bring in the director of football to do the job. As you say, you've heard nothing there was nothing from the terraces to suggest discontent. So is there any substance to this?
No, I think first of all we have to say that we don't know anything, do we? And we've just read what we've read on the fans forum. We're all as clueless as everyone. And this is a fans podcast, and we want to discuss things like this as fans. So as you say, on the terraces, nothing at all. I think Ian's still got, the support he's always had. But it goes back to the post-match interview, like Lee said, and MJ's comments there, really out the blue, and now this post has come from apparently someone at another club. You start to think, don't you?
Yeah, and once you get a director of football, sorry, Lee, I was going to say, once you get a director of football in at this level, it puts pressure on your manager straight away. You think, hello, what's the ulterior motive of this? Now, this is not to put Dean Austin down. It's just stating the fact that you look at it from the outside, that looks dodgy for the manager. And you can see people are putting 2 and 2 together and coming up with what's been posted. Sorry, there you go.
No, I was just going to say, I think it's important that we're not going to obviously respond and react to every rumour and sort of Twitter mill, but the fact this has come from another club within the league as well, it's got to have some sort of prominence to it, but at least certain enough for us to sort of discuss it. Has Ian Allinson got the same level of support as he did that he's always had? I don't believe he has. I genuinely don't believe he has. And if the club believe that everyone's as behind Ian now, as much as what they were in the past, then I think they are deluding themselves horribly. People support him. I support him. We support him. No problem with that. But, however, to suggest that he's, the number one choice of Saints fans across the terraces would be wrong.
Okay, I think I think he's still got the majority of fans on his side. A lot of the questions are asking, is it him who hasn't brought players in this season? In which case, then you can ask questions about him, because he should have brought players in there, but you can see that. Or is it the club saying, no, we're not going to spend that cut money? And if that is the point, then it's out of his hands.
Yeah, I think it's a genuine question, that, and I don't think we'll ever learn the answer, will we? So, but I think, and along with that, the content of that message indicates that it will be someone within the club that would step into Ian's role. And again, I think people are thinking, is that the person to do it? Alan Dawson, or Dawson, however you say his name, has been released from Woking. If we are to appoint someone, you want someone with pedigree at this level, don't you, in the summer? But, we've still, I think the unhelpful thing about all of this is we are still in the playoffs. We know,
Jake, Jake, if only there was some sort of platform, a fans forum, if you like, that was coming up, that fans could ask this sort of question. Tabs, I joked to Jake, maybe we could sort of do like a live podcast from the fans forum. I don't think it would last particularly long, because we might get asked to leave. But again, this is where supporters now come to the table. Ask the questions you've been burning to ask them. This has been 2-3 years since the last fans forum, I believe. So, and trust me, there's plenty have gone on that the fans aren't entirely happy about during that case of time. So please sign up to get your tickets. Come along and ask the open, honest questions. We don't want the owners just gaslighting us for 2 hours, because that achieved absolutely nothing. Ask the questions. You must have had a few burning on your mind. So I know that we have. So yeah, this is the perfect opportunity now. And also for the club, from the club's point of view, to clear the air about some of these things that are being put online. Obviously we don't expect them to respond to everything, but certainly, Ian should come out and say, well, this is where I got it wrong, or this is what I believe, and I believe in this, all of that. Come down and we can hear some God's honest answers.
Yep, I totally agree that fans forum, we've been asking for it, haven't we? Everyone's been asking for it. Those people that have been negative in recent weeks about performances on the pitch, club overall, go to the fans forum and get your voice heard. There's no point sort of not going to the forum and then just thinking, well, there's nothing I could do. And I will say the fans forum has come about because of some really good pressure from the St City Trust to get it on. So it is good that they're responding to that now. And Saints fans, however committed, however passionate you are, get down there and ask your questions, good or bad, because otherwise there'll be no other chance to ask them until the next one.
Tabs, it's in the club bar, which is behind the back of the main stand. There's a set of stairs, mate. Go up there and we'll be in there, mate.
Good grief. When did we have a clubhouse put in? Do we know who's going to be there? Is it just going to be Ian Allinson, or is he going to have some people from the top of the club down there?
I believe it's Ian and Lawrence Levy, I believe. So the sort of usual two suspects who we have at these fans forums. I don't know if anyone else will be there, but yeah, so you'll have the chance to, I believe, speak to one of the owners in Lawrence, which would be good again. And Ian, of course, as well, for those burning tactical questions.
Oh, okay. Right, we have some sad news to finish with. I'll get this thing down. Very sad that the news that Alan Cobb has died at the age of 83, a lifelong City supporter, terrific servant for the club. Goodness knows how many hours he put in as a volunteer down there. Sadly passed away, I think it was the 9th of March. Leah probably wants to say a bit in a minute as well, because he probably worked with him down there while I was avoiding any physical work down there. His brother Barry actually played 7 times for the first team and 80 odd games for the reserves in the 1950s. And also in 1956, July 1956, Alan actually signed for the club as well. He didn't play for the first team. He didn't play for the reserves. But there you go. He did actually sign for us. He was living in Delfields at the time, by the way, if anyone's interested. And the reason why I just pulled this thing down, in 1992, we went out to France in May, I think it was. A couple of days we went out there. And Alan came with us as well. We played 2 games out there against Puget and Frejus. And I remember, I think Alan sat in his chair for the whole of the week while everybody else went looking around. But he was a character, Alan. We're going to miss him. Lee?
Absolutely. I mean, I got to know Cobby really, really well in the 4 years that I ran the shop, and I was obviously involved in the media side. We talk about the importance of volunteers. And I'm not talking about volunteers who throw a pitchfork around for 5 minutes and then get the keys to the city afterwards. I'm talking about genuine volunteers who were down there 6 days a week. And they would have been down there more if they were allowed to. Cobby did all the jobs no one else wanted to, because he knew the value it brought to the football club, and without which you couldn't host games. He upset people. He did it very, very well. Well, you know, the amount of stories, but the passion he had as well. This is a man who travelled up and down this great land following St Albans City, and you know, you have to respect that level of commitment. Just one story. When Stand By Your Saints were redeveloping the clubhouse and painting, etc., he come up the stairs. Oh, I can paint. Cobby, are you sure? I said, absolutely, no problem. I can paint. Right, gonna have that wall there. I've got to go down and shoot and do some stuff, but I'll be back up shortly. No problem. Within about, I don't know, an hour, he'd come back down, all done. I said, really? I said, went back upstairs. He painted the wall, not the one we asked him to paint, but he painted the wall. But you know what? That was Cobby, and he'd love to pay for stuff in the club shop. And he just, rather than pay cash or card, he'd bring this massive jam jar of like coppers and 5p's and 10p's. I'm like, he goes, there's £14.75 in there. I'm like, you do trust me? I said, well, I'm going to have to, because I'll be buggered if I'm canning all of that out, mate. Absolutely. But it was just stuff like that, and the stories he had about the players. But again, my major memory of him would just be his devotion to St Albans City. 7 days a week. If we went to Elm Park to collect boardroom tables, he'd be there. We went to Plough Lane to collect crash barriers, he'd be there. You know, it's just, you don't get that level of volunteer anymore. You honestly don't. And you talk about, he lived in St Albans all his life, supported St Albans all his life. Alan Cobb truly is one of our own.
We're going to miss you, Cobby. Cheers, Lee. Right, I think we're done for this week, aren't we?
I think we
Next
are.
week we might be a day late. It might be down on a Friday. We're not sure yet, but hopefully by then we'll have 6 points to talk about. Well, that have come our way.
Didn't we say that last week?
We don't even do predictions anymore. No, we can't, because we're so rubbish at it, and it just puts the jinx on the club. They're going to stop blaming us now for our downturn in form, because we're predicting that we're going to win every single game. So it's ridiculous.
Dave's definitely going to ask us for a prediction now.
Prediction, Jake.
I'll go 3-2 Saints on Saturday.
Good God. And Tuesday.
Oh, Tuesday I'll go 1-0 Saints.
There's 2 more defeats coming up. Thanks, Jake. Lee?
Who we got first? Ebbsfleet?
Yeah.
2-0,
so, yeah.
2-0 Ebbsfleet, and I'm going to go 1-0.
It's using reverse psychology here. Well done, Lee.
That's it. It works once.
That was a happy one, wasn't it?
Anyway, listen, we've been harping on enough of listening to us talk. It'd be interesting to hear what the fans say. Jacob, give them the Twitter handle, my friend.
Yeah, at a pod full of Saints. We've got the email as well. So let us know what you think. Happy or bad.
Give us some jokes. Cheer us up.
Yeah. And yeah, if you agree with us or disagree, let us know, and we're happy to listen and discuss, aren't we? Well, Dave might not be, but me and Lee are. Oh, brilliant. Well, I think that's it from us, isn't it, for now? So
it is.
Come on, you Saints. 6 points, please. And we'll see you next week. Thank you very much, everyone.
See you all Saturday. Cheers.